Dear big guy, you know that obstacle that you're facing? There is absolutely no way around it. You can only go through it. Let me tell you what I mean. Now, people talk about jiu-jitsu and the mental game. They call it human chess. They say you have to be mentally tough. You have to develop mental toughness. You have to be smart. You have to be thinking 1 or 2 or 3 steps ahead. Mental. There are hundreds of articles written or podcasts or even YouTube videos about mental toughness. And your mindset is extremely important when it comes to jiu-jitsu. And being mentally tough and properly motivated is especially hard and especially challenging and especially important to a big guy like myself. The physical challenges we face can cause you to stumble, can cause you to feel frustrated. And when we're feeling frustrated, sometimes we don't go through the obstacle. We try to find ways around the obstacle. So I'm going to give you a list. You know I love my list. A list of things that you can do to be more mentally tough and to have the right mindset as an overweight, big guy, big jitsu, fat jitsu, whatever you want to call it, ultra heavyweight jiu-jitsu practitioner. Here are some things, some strategies that might help you go through the obstacle instead of trying to find a way around the obstacle. Number 1, you got to set realistic goals. We've talked about this a bunch of times. If you are telling yourself that you're going to train 7 days a week, you're going to burn out. If you tell yourself you're going to eat nothing but celery and rice cakes all week, you're going to burn out. Set smart goals to build your confidence. Every time you speak a goal and every time you accomplish a goal, it should motivate you and drive you to the next goal. If you're talking yourself out of success, it's going to feel more like a job and more like work than it is fun. So be realistic about how often you train, about how you eat, about how you exercise outside of the gym. The worst thing that happens, usually happens around January 1st, is people set unrealistic goals about how they're going to eat nothing but celery and run a 5K every day and God knows what else. So please, for the love of God and all things holy, set a realistic goal. Set a realistic goal for you and your body. If you can only train twice a week, train twice a week. If you can only train 3 times, do it 3 times. If you can only go to the gym twice a week, whatever. But be realistic and give yourself credit for it, because number two is to embrace the journey. Remember that the progress is going to take time. I keep saying slow down, be patient. I keep saying it, I feel like, in every thinking video. But you want to slow down and be patient. Progress takes time. When I talk to a fellow big guy in the chat or somebody hits me up on Instagram, they always ask me, how can I do this faster? How can I get better faster? If you look at all the videos on YouTube, it's about getting your blue belt faster, getting your black belt faster, progressing faster, winning tournaments, all these things, faster, speed. Well, guess what, big guy? Speed isn't our game. So you shouldn't be thinking about speed. You should be thinking about success. And think about the effort. Think about the journey instead of the destination. If you don't enjoy the class you went to this Tuesday night, then how the hell are you going to do it 3 times a week? If you're setting the expectation so high with your celery and rice cakes, or you're going to be world champion by the end of the year, or whatever your stinking goal is, and you're not enjoying the process, you will never reach the outcome. Realistic goals and enjoy the process. Embrace the journey. If you're not in love with the process, you will probably never reach the goal. I used to make comic books. I know that sounds crazy, but just bear with me for a second. I don't draw to save my soul, but I was a writer and a creator, and I hired a team of artists to put together comic books that I loved and a lot of people loved. That's not the point of this video. But the reason why I bring that up is because I used to teach people how to make comic books. I used to go to Comic-Con and WonderCon and LA Comic-Con and places like that and teach people how to make comic books. And the funny thing about that is everybody and their cousin has an idea for a comic book. We would have 500 people, 1,000 people in the room for the panel, and I would say something like, how many people here have an idea for a comic book or a movie? And all the hands would go up, and I'd say, okay, how many of you have written the script for your comic book or your movie? And all but maybe 10% of the hands would go down. Everybody has an idea, but not very many people do the work. Not very many people enjoy the process, are willing to put pen to paper, are willing to sit down and type it out and actually grind it out. Then I would say, how many people have an artist? How many people have artwork you can show me? And by the time I got down to the list, how many of you in this room of 500 people have a finished product that you can show me? Something you created, and it might be one person. Sometimes it was 0, but usually it was 1, maybe 2 people max that actually had a tangible representation of their idea. I bring this up because if you don't love the journey, you're never going to reach the end. If 500 people say, I want to do it, and only 2 have actually damn done it, you do the math. All right. Number 3, speaking of Comic-Con, comic books, nerdy things, you have to find a supportive community. Comic-Con is one of the most supportive communities for comic book nerds and comic book creators and anime fans and you name it, Anime Expo, all these places. Every kind of nerd has their tribe, and the jiu-jitsu tribe is the same. If you go to competitions, if you go to seminars, if you look online, there are so many different jiu-jitsu content creators. You gotta find a great school and a supportive community that people are gonna understand and support and lift you up and be motivating and be helpful, and not people who are gonna tear you down or just compete with you all the time. If you have nothing but competition, you're going to struggle. If you go to one of those schools where everybody's just smashing the hell out of each other and the attempt to be king of the mat or the attempt to be the next guy to get the next promotion, you might want to think about switching schools. If you don't love your school, if you don't feel like you're supported by your community, if they're not rooting for you, you might want to think about switching schools. As a matter of fact, you guys know if you follow me on Instagram, I've been working out a lot. I've dropped some weight. I'm doing pretty good. One of my instructors sent me the, let me borrow his copy of the Gracie Diet. I don't know if I'm going to follow it or not, but he says, hey, maybe you want to read this and check this out. It might work for you. That's the kind of support I'm talking about. If people see you working and they recognize your effort and they want to help you or they want to encourage you or just give you a shout out or just give you some love, that's a beautiful thing. So you want to find supportive communities and surround yourself with people who understand and support your goals. That can be extremely motivating. You want to look for people who are inclusive, not exclusive. So if you go to a school and it's all one type of person, they're all 24-year-old, former wrestlers that have dreams of one day being Gordon Ryan, maybe that's not the school for you, okay? If you go to a place and there's men, women, and children, and maybe a couple big guys, a couple small guys, maybe that's a place you want to be. So find a supportive community. Number 4, you have to visualize your success. There are so many stories about people who visualize their success. The bottom line is if you can see it in your mind, you can probably achieve it. When you can see the goal in your head, and you can see yourself doing well, and you can imagine it, and it feels tangible, it is that much more real in your physical life as it is in your mental life. So I would encourage you that if you want to think about doing well in class is something you want to do. Think about doing well in a competition. Think about waking up and going to the gym like you've been meaning to. Think about waking up and going for a walk, even if it's just walking, maybe it's not the gym, going to yoga, whatever. If you can't visualize the goal, first of all, I won't say it in a negative way. You should be actively visualizing your goal. If your goal is to get up in the morning and go running, you want to visualize that bad boy, maybe set out your shoes, your running clothes, whatever, but you got to visualize it first. Number 5, celebrate small victories. There are certain things that we are so focused on in the jiu-jitsu community. The next stripe, the next belt promotion, the next tournament. But sometimes the win isn't a belt, it isn't a stripe, it isn't a freaking $5 medal. Sometimes you can have smaller victories, like I survived a round with this purple belt who usually kills me. I passed this guy's guard. Maybe you didn't even get the tap, you just passed the guard. Or maybe you kept somebody in your guard. Like, small victories are important. Sometimes the victories just go into class. So whatever you do, you want to celebrate the victories because those small victories build momentum. They build momentum and they keep your motivation high. They keep you focused on going through instead of finding excuses or trying to find ways around. So if you went to class on Tuesday night and you had a good roll where you survived, or maybe you caught somebody in some kind of move, you're probably going to want to go to school or go to class that much more, let's say the following Thursday, because you had a small victory. No, you didn't win the Master Worlds. No, you didn't get that promotion or that stripe. But if you can celebrate the little things like, doing a technique well or surviving or doing, not getting gassed or hell, making it through the warm-up, that's a hell of a victory for me. Those little things, even if it's small, you can use it as a source of motivation to keep pushing you forward. Last but not least, the final thing on the list is I want you to practice self-compassion. You want to be kind to yourself and avoid negative talk. What do I mean by that? I don't know about you, but when things go wrong, you don't go to a class, you eat something you probably shouldn't, or something that doesn't fit in your macros or doesn't fit in your diet. I have a tendency, I'll just speak for myself, to talk negatively to myself. To tell myself, hey, you dummy, you shouldn't have eaten that. Or hey, you dummy, why are you being a bum? You should have gone to go to class. You should have gone to class. Like, that's negative instead of positive. I would encourage you to check out a book. There's a book called Soundtracks by John Acuff. And I'm not endorsed and I'm not sponsored, but it's a fantastic book. It talks about changing the soundtrack or the repetitive thoughts you hear in your head and going from a negative one to a positive one. You can't erase the negative one. And what the author John Acuff says is you got to turn down the volume on the negative soundtrack and crank up the volume on the positive. I encourage you to check out his podcast. He has a podcast called All It Takes Is a Goal. But that book, Soundtracks, is phenomenal because you have a negative voice in your head. It's probably yours, or maybe it's your mom or somebody in your life that told you suck or you weren't going to be good at something. But if you have negative self-talk, you need to find a way to replace that negative self-talk with positive self-talk. We're never going to get through a challenging goal. You will never make it through a challenging goal with negative self-talk. You cannot win if you're constantly telling yourself that you suck. It's one of those things, like, it's hard to go forward if you're constantly looking in the rearview mirror. It's hard to drive straight and drive forward if you're constantly looking behind you. And when you're looking behind yourself, like, man, I should have done that. Man, I shouldn't have done that. You're not looking forward, and you're definitely not going through the goal. So I would encourage you to check out that book and to focus on being kind to yourself and replacing the negative inner dialogue with a positive inner dialogue, because that's the only way we're going to survive this process. Jiu-Jitsu is hard. We've talked about this before. It's hard for a 22-year-old fresh out of college. It's hard for a skinny guy. It's hard for a D1 wrestler. It's hard for everybody. But if you're an older guy or just a chubbier guy, a heavier guy, it's even more challenging. So you want to practice self-compassion and be kind to yourself and avoid the negative self-talk and turn down that negative soundtrack and crank the volume on the positive soundtrack. Treat yourself with the same kindness and compassion that you would offer to someone else. If you're telling yourself something in your head that you wouldn't say to a friend, you should probably rethink it. I know that's a little serious. I'm ending on kind of a heavy note, but that's a challenge that I face. And this whole channel is about documenting my journey, and I share things if it encourages me or things that I've learned along the way. And I found that being hard on myself, being negative with myself is counterproductive. I found that I need to celebrate those victories, the small victories. I found that it helps when I visualize myself doing it well, doing things successfully. I found that it is beneficial to me and helpful to me when I trust and being a part of a supportive community. I found that when I embrace the suck, when I embrace the journey, when I embrace the process, when I trust the process, when I enjoy the process, the end is not as big of a deal. And of course, the goal setting is a big thing. I used to tell myself, like even this year, I said, you know what, I want to get my blue belt by the end of the year. I'm going to go 3 times a week and I'm going to get my blue belt by the end of the year. I don't freaking control that. I don't. So I changed my goal. I changed my goal from being, I'm going to earn my blue belt. I'm going to go and work hard and lose weight so I can earn my blue belt to, I'm going to get better. As a matter of fact, one of the guys in my studio, gosh, we used to call it a Taekwondo studio. So, one of the guys at my academy, at my school, at my gym, whatever you call your school, all right, he just had a competition and won a gold medal. And I thought, you know what? I used to love competing in Taekwondo. Maybe I should compete with Jiu-Jitsu. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to compete as a blue belt. I've been doing this for almost 2 years, but damn it, I suck. I haven't been consistent. I do mostly private lessons. At least last year I did mostly private lessons. So I think I have a lot of work to do before I'm on a blue belt level in terms of competition. I'd probably prefer to compete as a white belt. So I'm not even thinking about becoming a blue belt right now. I'm thinking about maybe if I could lose enough weight and hit my goal of weight loss and cardio and flexibility and strength and performance. If I can hit my performance goal, you might just see me on a competition mat sometime late this year or early next year, depending on my goals and how long it takes me to reach it. So I guess my point is you have to kind of reevaluate. And you can only reevaluate if you're in a supportive place. You can visualize the victory, visualize the goal. You celebrate the small victories along the way. You enjoy and trust the process, and you're positive with yourself. So that's all I got today. If you're hating on yourself, if you're being negative, if you're being hard on yourself, feel free to reach out, and I will do my best to encourage you. If you don't have a supportive community, allow me to be part of your supportive community. If you aren't sure if your goals are realistic, I'm happy to help talk through them with you. I'm not a therapist, but I have been a coach. Maybe we can talk about what you're doing well at and what you think is realistic. And if you just want somebody to share the journey with or to talk about your progress along the way, I'm here for you. So again, sorry for kind of the downer video. It wasn't my goal, but I wanted to get the message across. I have often tried to find ways around the difficult thing, and I've learned, and I am learning, and I'm being reminded that the best way to accomplish a goal is not to find a way around the hard thing, but to go through. So I hope this has been encouraging. If it has, please follow me at Chris Learns Jiu-Jitsu on social media. Like and subscribe and send me a comment. Have a good one.